How can sea otters help combat climate change? A deep dive into the inner workings of keystone species in their ecosystem, made by Nivetan Jaya Chandran. The first time I've ever seen a sea otter was when I was at the Scarborough Bluffs in Toronto with my friend doing a little exploring. Little did I know that this little creature, his friends, and family can have such a significant impact against climate change. I know. Climate change and sea otters? How do those two things have any sort of relation to each other? Well, let's start off with a brief description of what climate change is, and how people are attempting to solve this looming matter ahead. Climate change is one of the biggest threats that humanity has ever faced. The increase in global temperature can and will cause numerous disastrous problems around the world, such as disease, flooding, droughts, etc. A natural solution that many scientists worldwide have considered is carbon sequestration, which is the storage of excess carbon from our atmosphere into a location, sort of like a warehouse, but just for carbon. Luckily, there are organisms that sequester carbon naturally and have been doing so for over millennia. They are called autotrophs, aka plants. The plant that is going to co-star with the sea otters in this presentation today is none other than kelp. But to every story, there is always an antagonist, which is going to be the sea urchins, a creature that can be found in any marine region in the world. Now, these three organisms play an important part in marine ecosystems found near the coasts of Western Canada. Our stage for today. Sea otters are known as a keystone species. These are species that keep their ecosystems from falling apart. A typical day will look like this. Sea urchins eat the kelp, and the sea otters devour the sea urchins. However, when these species are removed or reduced, everything can turn into chaos. Sea urchins will rampage on, devouring whole fields of kelp, which in return will help them grow exponentially. The kelp population has no one to turn to as they eventually meet their demise. Having the sea otters around help keeps the sea urchin population in control and unintentionally aids in the growth of these kelp populations. As the kelp starts to grow due to these sea otters, the carbon in its environment gets consumed by the kelp and is transformed into biomass, which is what they're made of. As they are growing old and break off from their roots, theoretically they travel down to the bottom of the ocean as debris, where they will get buried with sediment. If 1% of the debris of kelp due to sea otters travel to the deep ocean, the economic value of the deposited carbon, according to the European Carbon Exchange, is approximately 6 million to 21 million US dollars. This had me thinking, what else are these ecosystems capable of? These naturally occurring relationships between the levels of ecosystems should also raise the question of what other relationships, inorganic or organic, can affect the carbon cycle and help increase carbon sequestration. Who knows? Maybe Mother Nature does have a backup plan with their own ways of solving this increasingly relevant global problem, even if it calls for sea otters in the front lines and the demise of sea urchins. Thank you for listening.